Have you ever had a career mode so good that it invades your life?
Adam! Crouch!
It's the only thing you can think about.
It's in!
Well, the whole stadium stands as one.
Ruins your sleep schedule. Playing in the night, sleeping in the day. And literally sucks you in. This is that career mode for me. If you've seen my Barcelona video, you know that I'm going to be using my custom-made statistical database to track all things like passing accuracy, tackle success rate, to give you a full in-depth analysis into how the season went. And this time, we have graphics. Also, in this video, we're going to see the entire first season. I absolutely hate simming, so I will be playing every single game. This is the most in-depth I've ever gone into a video, so if you like this style, please do subscribe. And if you want to support this further, you can go check out the membership. There you can see BTS stuff, you get the video early, but also you get a slightly extended version with more stats for those who really like this kind of stuff. Now into the team. For this video, we have chosen 2016 Stoke City squad. This is the golden age of FIFA 17. This Stoke City team contains amazing classic players like Peter Crouch, Ryan Shawcross and Jack Butland. I used all the friendlies to check the squad out and found that the 4-4-2 caused too many issues in getting our more technical players into the squad. So we ended up going with a 4-3-3 with a DM, so we could keep a defensive backline, keep the ball and make use of our wingers and have big Peter Crouch as our main outlet. Friendlies were good, I won't go too much into them as they were just a playground for trying the players, but we did come away with the trophy playing Russian team Krasnodar in the final, and we got a couple of goals from our key players like Crouch and Arnie. In those games we had an average possession of 55.8%, 3 wins, a draw and a loss. This did have a lot of rotation, so don't take a lot of that to heart. It's the next games that matter. In our first 10 games we conceded a total of 4 goals, got quite a few draws and a 1-0 win against Middlesbrough. The main thing though was that our defence was doing its job. Some standout performances from Butland gained us some points like this one at Tottenham, but it wasn't all doom and gloom. We scored some great goals as well as this, such as this Adam goal in the 1-1 against Hull.
Adam! They have taken the lead.
But our first big test came in the form of Man City visiting the Bet365 stadium on match day 2. After US CDM Jeff Cameron won us a free kick, Peter Crouch stepped up and hit this.
Their side to come here and win, and at the moment, obviously. And it's in!
Now, if you're expecting to see lots of this during this career mode, tame your expectations. I am just as shocked as you are. And lucky enough, I actually happened to be recording, so I can show you my live reaction. Trust me, I went crazy. Damn. What followed was the absolute antithesis of Brexit football, pure defence, blocks and professional fouls galore. If this career mode had a mood board of inspiration, the clear ones would of course be Arsenal's Invincibles of 2004, who went the entire season unbeaten and won a small gold trophy because of it. And then Chelsea the following year, who set the records for most clean sheets kept in a season and fewest goals conceded. And then the best of all, the Burnley team under Sean Dyche. And then, of course, the Stoke teams of old that held the reputation of being very difficult to beat. Diouf asked to play following his sub-appearance in the City game, which he did actually show some promise, almost finishing the game off himself. And he did come up with some good moments. In our 1-0 win against West Brom, he ran the show, scoring the only goal and getting great chances all throughout. He also starred in our disappointing defeat in the opening game of the Cup, doing great to get an assist here from Crouch, but we did exit that competition early unfortunately. But next up, Man United. United would get the first goal from this long distance effort from Rooney. A deflection from Shawcross would take it past Butland. The 4-3-3 we've been using has allowed for a lot of adaptation depending on the game. In a match where we know we'll be attacking a lot, we can have players like Bojan as the centre mid. But if we need to defend a lot, we use players like Whelan and Cameron. Cameron played in that City game, for example, and he won us that free kick that led to the goal. He came in against United here as well and won us the penalty that got us back in it with a Crouch goal.
And there's the goal.
Diouf had a very big chance to keep his form going here after a Romero mistake, but he snatched at it, meaning in the last minute Martial got this opportunity and thankfully hit the post. This began a little period where we drew quite a few. 0-0 Sunderland, 0-0 Swansea. Crouch got a late equaliser against Everton, and we scored our first ever corner goal to do the same against Palace. But after those 10 games, it meant that we were unbeaten in the league, only 4 goals conceded and 6 clean sheets from Butland, who has been making an average of 3.2 saves per game at this point. More clean sheets than actual goals conceded. We weren't scoring a lot though, and that was highlighted before the West Ham game. They called us out as the lowest scoring team in the league with 7. I guess we took that to heart, because after this point, Crouch just did it all. A header followed by a low finish, and then the best of them all is lovely headed Dinklage in the second half.
Hat-trick.
But actually, my favourite moment of the game might just be this. In the first half, Glenn Johnson, our number 8 right back, took a speculative shot from distance which Randolph saved, and it went out for a throw-in. Now this is where it gets good. From that throw, the ball slowly made its way over to that side again, where Johnson just says to himself, you know what, I'm going to try again. And this time he hits it low, and it slots down in the bottom left. We finished the game 4-1, taking us suddenly to 11 goals in 11 games, which isn't too bad, is it? Well, the next 2 games were 0-0 at Bournemouth and Watford. Got a last-minute header from the shortest footballer on the pitch, Shaqiri, to give us the 1-0 win against Burnley. The assist there coming from the substitute Affalay. And then we had Arsenal. For this game, we decided to go with the defensive-minded midfield 3 of Adam, Whelan and Cameron. Shaqiri started us off with a decent turn to create a chance, and then Charlie Adam played a 1-2 with Glenn Whelan, who had opened a hole in Arsenal's defence, pulling a defender out and had a great shot. Whelan was fantastic in this game, 83% pass accuracy and 100% tackle completion rate. He later caught Ozil with a dummy and then finessed it past Peter Cech, but it hit the post. Who else but him then to win us a penalty in the last 10 minutes? Again, Ozil with a mistake. And Crouch put it away to earn us the 3 points at the Emirates. But you can have no doubt who my man of the match was. Now this game actually put us in an interesting position, overtaking Arsenal, and after 15 games we were top 3. Interestingly, we have only conceded 5 at this point. That's 1 goal every 3 games and the best in the league. After another 0-0 at Southampton, we came up against Leicester, and after 16 games unbeaten, the only team not to lose at this point, Leicester took us down through this Ahmed Musa goal. Now it comes from Shawcross thinking he had it, and then he cleans out the only other person who could have prevented it, slide tackling his own player. We've played Arsenal, United, Tottenham, Man City, winning 2, drawing 2, but it's Leicester and Preston in the cup that we can't better. But we're doing really good against the Big Six, and we hope to continue this record in our next 2 games against Liverpool and Chelsea. We got through a lot of that Liverpool game thinking it would be another quiet 0-0, but in the last 10 minutes, an innocuous fall from Sacco onto Shawcross would break Shawcross's ankle and put him out for 3 months in late December. This means Walshield is the current first choice to come in, and his first game would be a big test, Chelsea. In the 69th minute, poor clearance from Martins Indy would lead to an opportunity from Matic to get the opener. But after this was a moment of brilliant team play. This is like one of those ones that you sometimes see in a goal of the month or even season award, where almost every player gets involved, and it ends with a lovely cross from Peters, and it gives Crouch his 10th goal of the season. We currently sit just outside of European places with 32 points from 19 games, and now we go into our first transfer window. It's January, so we've only got a month, and really we need to start thinking about the future and our current situation. At the minute, we're just not scoring enough. Defensively, we're fine. To be honest, we could probably afford to concede some more, make some changes in defence just to score some more goals. Crouch is on 12 all season, great, but then not a single person other than him has more than 2 goals, and a lot of these are lucky long shots. This feels maybe more like a creative problem though, so I think maybe we need to invest in a creative fullback and midfield. Those are the 2 main things I'm looking for in January. Another big thing to consider is Crouch is retiring soon, so we may need to consider bringing in someone to be his long-term replacement. A backup striker for this season, but potential to become our main striker next season. Keep it realistic, we can't be shooting for the best, and we're also working on a budget here. Some of the people we've identified as targets include Connor Wickham, Charlie Austin, of course Andy Carroll, and Ricky Lambert. To be honest, I'm leaning Charlie Austin. The other position I absolutely want to improve in is fullback. Got a couple of options for that. We've got Coleman, Joel Ward and Trippier. And to be honest, I think I really want Coleman. I think he would improve this team a lot. And then really the only winger I've identified as someone who's maybe within our price range is Andros Townsend, and I think he's a perfect option because he can play on both sides, both foots, can finish, can assist. I think he's a really good option. In the midfield area, I was looking at players like Gareth Barry, Carrick, on the cheaper end maybe Much or Ledley, and then maybe like our big one, Dyer. Probably can't afford to go for that kind of player right now, but maybe one of the others could be good. And then lastly, in defence, I just want someone a bit more reliable that can fill in for Shawcross when he's injured. And I've got quite a few people. We've got Wes Morgan, we've got Terry, who better than someone who's done the thing that we're trying to do already. Yoshida, classic. We got me, we got Michael Keane, Scott Dan, and then the Jones and Smalling duo. In the meantime though, we had to think about football. We had another 0-0 against Watford, but we very almost won it at the death with this chance from Crouch. A nothing game against West Ham meant we were actually now on a record of only 1 goal scored in 6 games. So between games we managed to get some of these deals done. We brought in Coleman and we also managed to get Ward-Prowse. I thought realistically this is a transfer that could happen after his Villa transfer in real life, but I just couldn't make it work and moved on. I did look into Jones though, a player who I wish would have made this kind of move at some point, so I managed to get him in as our third choice centre back, and we came up against Sunderland away. We gave debuts to our first two signings, Coleman and Jones. Ironically, two defensive changes, but one that attacking minded and the other is just filling a space, and now Ward-Prowse provides a rare attacking option off the bench. We had a lot of chances in this game, but not too much from our new players. Shaqiri would force an own goal here. For our next game, we had West Ham in the Cup replay. We were able to confirm the signing of Andros Townsend, who went right in for his debut. Ward-Prowse would also get his first start. They almost linked up here for a first goal for Ward-Prowse, but it would be Andros who would get the dream debut with this rocket from the centre of the pitch, in off the crossbar. Sign of things to come. In terms of outgoings, we had an offer in for Joselu, future Real Madrid player who has not really been playing that much. We were able to get 9 million for that. And then we went in for that Carrick deal. I feel like he really does instantly improve our midfield, so we managed to get him for 4.5 million, which I think is a steal. And he becomes our highest rated centre mid and our main DM. And wouldn't you know it, his first game is against the team we have just signed him from, Man United. Currently unbeaten against the Big Six, and we're coming up now against a struggling United side who have just lost one of their midfielders. Zlatan hit the post early on, but just after half-time, wouldn't you know it, a consecutive debut goal scorer against his former team. Carrick finesses it past De Gea, and that would be the goal to give us a win, making it 4 points from 6 against United this season. As we move on, we managed to secure Austin for 11 million from Southampton, and a new number 9 would make his debut in the cup game against Leicester in a largely rotated team. In the 15th minute, Bojan would find him for a lovely cut-in against Amati, and our third consecutive debut goal of the season. So far, our transfers are getting us goals, and that's exactly what we needed. Muniesa would make a mistake to allow Leicester in for an equaliser, and then more defensive confusion against Leicester left it up to Vardy to set up Musa once more. Now let's have a look at what happened last time we faced them. Leicester are becoming a difficult team for us to play. Austin would get himself an assist on his debut as well, giving Arnie an open goal to make it 2-2. And he almost did it again for Cameron, but he put it wide. But then late in the game, two subs would link up, Carrick and Couch, and they would win us the game, making it 3-2 and advancing us once more in the cup. An amazing debut from Austin and a great performance from us to come back in a rare high-scoring game. On this channel we like stats, and here's a fun one for you. 16% of all the goals scored came in that game, for and away. So as we approached deadline day, we got a bid for Bruno Martins Indy. So Bruno Martins Indy has played 22 games this season, all starts, an average rating of 7.03. His win percentage, and keep in mind this is similar for everyone, is 22%. But that's not his fault, he's a defender, and he has kept 17 clean sheets. He's only making about 4 passes per game, about 1 successful tackle per game, 1.36 interceptions per game, 0.14 blocks per game, which to be clear, all those stats are really good. Only Shawcross, Bardsley and Woolshield are getting more tackles per game than him. He's got the most interceptions per game, and his tackle success rate is only bettered in defense by Bardsley. So he is a big part of this team. So I decided to do one of those, if you pay us this much, then maybe. Especially because it was coming from a European team, so I thought it was realistic. They accepted it, and the news described it as a sizable price tag. It's disappointing, but with this little bit more money to play, I decided to go grab Wickham as well. So a third choice forward now, but a second choice next season. We're also able to make a bid for Cresswell as well. I offered a speculative swap for Peters, and they accepted. So that's like for like improvement. And the last minute, I decided to go for a Mr. Reece Oxford, perhaps a forgotten future prospect. He's only 67 rated at this time and 18, so another for the future. But we were able to get him for 2 million, and that is the deals that we did. Got a lot of new players in, so adjusted the formation. We went with a 4-1-2-1-2 narrow, just as a way of getting both Austin and Crouch in, because they're both playing well at the minute. Townsend ends up being a number 10, which he has played there in real life, and he's both footed, so he can drift over to the wings and put in crosses for 2 big guys now. And then essentially we keep that midfield 3. The only change is now we don't have wingers, we've got an extra striker and one guy who's basically serving as both. In the game, Townsend made a bursting run forward, and he won us a penalty, which Crouch missed, but was able to tuck in on the rebound. But then, here's where things get interesting. Austin found Crouch for a second. That is our first second goal in a Premier League game since the West Ham game, where we scored 4. And that goal actually puts us back in that third place. Only 1 point, though, off top. Where has this come from? Now, it's worth noting Chelsea do have a game in hand, and Spurs have 2, so we're potentially 4 points off top, but we're definitely in it, right? We're in good form here. Still only 6 goals conceded in the league. Could we go on and do something? Also, that goal puts Crouch top goal scorer with 11. Final season for the club. And of course, Butland so far top of the clean sheets with 16. and only 5 goals conceded. Massive. We'd get another 0-0 against West Brom. And then we'd enter our period of dominance. Austin getting a winner against Palace on the half volley. Against Tottenham, the former Spurs winger Andros Townsend popped up, scoring the header, and rightly declines to celebrate, but kind of embarrassing for him. Wasn't even his goal. This own goal would actually put us top of the league. Can you believe it? With a game in hand, but we're really coming together now. Against Middlesbrough, we hit the crossbar twice before Austin cut back his run and put away an easy finish. Getting 2 in this game. We had so many chances in this one though, we should have done better. After another 0-0 with Chelsea, this is how we sat. All games in hand played, joint top of the table with Tottenham. Now, isn't this starting to feel like something else? Leicester, it was Tottenham who they were in that little title chase with, wasn't it? When we came up against City, we had a really hard fought game with chances either side, and another game ended 0-0. Still unbeaten against the top 6 teams. Came up against Leicester next, our bogey team though. And bogey team they did, Ahmed Musa scoring early, and frankly, they were all over us. Butland was doing his best to keep us in it, but Vardy would put the nail in the coffin in the 70th minute. To add insult to injury, Crouch missed a penalty, but Shaqiri would get a consolation late on. So suddenly, we've gone from joint top of the league on a winning run to hitting us on a 3-game winless streak. But then, Burnley away, 0-0. Liverpool home, 0-0. Hull home, 0-0. West Ham home, 0-0. We had 5 0-0s in a row. So something had to be changed. So I did a direct comparison of the two formations and how they've been doing. So the 4-3-3, we played 26 games, 11 wins, 13 draws, 2 losses. 4-1-2-1-2, narrow, played 14 games, 6 wins, 7 draws and 1 loss. Record-wise, they're basically the same. The 4-1-2-1-2 has a win rate of 42.86%, and the 4-3-3 is 42.31%. So they're really, on that scale, they're basically the same. And in terms of possession, they also are basically the same. The 4-1-2-1-2 has 53% possession, whilst the 4-3-3 is 52.35% possession. But where the stats become interesting and start to say what is felt is in the goals scored and the shots. So the 4-3-3 as a baseline, we scored 26 goals in 26 games, so that's 1 goal scored per game. And in terms of what we were conceding, only 10 conceded, 0.38 goals per game. So let's compare those directly. So 1 goal scored per game, 4-1-2-1-2, 0.86 per game, 12 total. So we're scoring less per game by about 15%, which is significant. And in terms of goals conceded, only 3 conceded, that's 0.21 per game. So we're actually conceding less as well. So there's less goals per game in general, and that makes sense because of this 0-0 streak. Essentially, we've really nailed making these games boring, but we need more goals, and that's what the 4-3-3 has. But what I find interesting is actually, if you look at the shots taken and the shots faced, it tells a different story. So in the 4-3-3, we've had 128 shots total. That's an average of 4.92 per game. In the 4-1-2-1-2, we've had 75, an average of 5.36 per game. So we're having more shots in the 4-1-2-1-2, which makes sense because we've got more strikers, more people in the box. But it must be the conversion rate. So all this tells me we should go back to the 4-3-3 and see how it goes for the rest of the season. Before we get into that, we're going to take a look at how we did in the FA Cup. How far did we get? After getting through against Leicester, we were drawn MK Dons at home. A game we dominated in our dominant period. Jonathan Walters in particular had come in rotated and scored what almost felt like a casual perfect hat-trick. Left foot, chipped header, right foot. It just seemed easy for him. We drew Watford in the quarters. Glenn Whelan would cross it to Glenn Johnson for the only goal of that game. And now we're going to Wembley against Man City in the semi-finals of the FA Cup. We started well, forcing a save from Joe Hart and hitting the post soon after. Shay Given was able to keep out this shot from Pastore, and we reached full time at an expected 0-0, considering this game actually took place during the 5-0 streak. Free kick in the 7th minute of extra time meant a chance to shoot. We all know what happened last time we tried one against City. Townsend would hit it, saved by Hart, but very close. Pastore was causing us issues, turning here and giving us another chance to win as we go to penalties, which is great given that Given is the backup. So, penalties against Man City in the FA Cup semi-final at Wembley. De Bruyne first, and Given saves. Hart does a Raya, as Crouch slots it through the middle. And then Given saves another, this time Gundogan. Walters tries Crouch's technique though, and it's an embarrassingly bad attempt. And of course Pastore has no issue getting City's first of the shootout. Carrick dispatches his Corley, and Iheanacho steps up. Saved again by Given. Ward-Prowse could put us in a winning position, and he Panekas it straight down the middle. What are we doing? Nolito scores his, and Andros Townsend steps up to win it, but Hart gets close but not close enough. We have got Stoke to the final. So here's the schedule now. Against Bournemouth, our formation changed as Crouch would get his first goal in over 10 games in what I think is my favourite assist of all time from new signing Coleman. Look at this. It's so dirty, and Crouch hits it on the volley down. And this would end our 5-0 streak, 8 games without a win. Butland would guide us through our second win in a row against Swansea with some fantastic saves. But unfortunately, with 2 games to go, our chance of the title has been made impossible by Chelsea on 72 points, as we can only get a max of 70. The top 4, though, is still here for the taking, and for our first season, that is more than enough. Charlie Adam would get the tap in with fantastic pace here for the opener against Czech, and Giroud would score an exact copy soon after, but a Crouch corner and a Carrick first-time finish when we came away with the 3 points at home, 3-1. And here is the picture going into the final PL game of the season. Third place, the highest we can finish. A draw is all we need to secure it against City and Arsenal. But we're up and firing now. I don't want no 0-0. Townsend to Carrick as he finishes near post, 1-0. We are going to the Champions League. I bring on Reece Oxford for his Premier League debut in the final game. A classic final game move on a sunny day. As Coleman clears it, we end an impressive season in third place, exceeding our expectations, and yet somehow we do feel like we could have done better. But we still have the FA Cup final to come. But as we round out the Premier League, let's take a look at some of the general facts and milestones before we go more in detail in the stats later. So in the end, we finished on 70 points in third, just 5 points off top, where Chelsea won it just like they did in real life. We only lost 2 games as well. It is actually conceivable that we could have gone the entire season unbeaten and finished on just 72 points, which would still put us in third, but unbeaten, which is crazy. Note that both our Premier League losses were both to Leicester. We were the only team to concede a single-digit amount of goals, with 9 conceded in 38 games, which breaks the record. Chelsea conceded 15 in their incredible 04-05 season, and we beat that by 6. Chelsea also had 25 clean sheets that season, which is the record. We had 28, so we have been better defensively and have become the best ever Premier League defence. But we didn't win the league. So are we the best defence? Because we've got nothing to show for it. Obviously, we conceded the least of any team in the season, but we also only scored 29, the least of any team in the season. 3 of those 0-0s into 1-0, and we would actually won the league. On to the FA Cup final. We come up against Tottenham, a team that contains Kane, Dele Alli and Lloris and so many more amazing players. They beat Arsenal in the semi to get there, and here is our team. We reverted back to the 4-1-2-1-2 as that's what got us here. Basically, I'm playing a mix of the players that got us here and also the players that can win us this game. Glenn Johnson at right back, Phil Jones and Munueza as the centre-back pairing, Cresswell on the left. In midfield, we've got Carrick, we've got Ward-Prowse, Jeff Cameron and Andros Townsend, and Wickham and Crouch start because it is Crouch's last ever game for the club. First major chance came in as Kane crossed it to an unmarked Lamella, who just missed the near post. Crouch forced to save from distance. Cresswell actually played really well, good tackle here, and then in the 63rd minute, he was found and put in an amazing cross, and Wickham of all people, puts it in on the volley, making it 1-0 in the final, scoring his first goal for the club after half a season of blanks. Amazing. And in the build-up, you may have noticed Crouch went down, and he stayed down. And unfortunately, he had to leave the field with a broken ankle, our second of the season. Walter's coming in for him. Townsend almost finished it for us, but he hit it straight at Lloris, and then Munueza with a block here late on. Kane would beat him to it soon after though, and he put it just wide. And there we have it. Stoke City have won the 2017 FA Cup 1-0 against Tottenham. The Kane curse of the time continued, and we lift our first trophy of our time here, sending Crouch out with a bang. And also a wallop. As it turned out, he picked up a 3-month injury in his last game, breaking that ankle, but it was worth it. He goes out a legend, our top goal scorer of the season, with an FA Cup winners medal around his neck. So now let's get into the stats of the season, starting out with the awards. Firstly, goal of the season. Of course, first nominee is that Crouch goal with absolute banger. I could not believe it when it went in. Plus the opposition, it's a crazy goal. Charlie Adam in real life is a scorer of great goals, and I'm glad he got a nominee. This one against Hull on his left, it's great. Let me know in the comments, do you think a goal is better or worse when it hits the post? I think it's better. Here's another example and another nominee, Townsend on his debut in the Cup against West Ham. And lastly, the FA Cup winning goal from Wickham for the occasion. Let me know what you're voting for in the comments, and that will win fans' goal of the season. But the manager's goal of the season is Crouch. I gotta give it Crouchy for that free kick. I love it. So manager's goal of the season is that. But let me know in the comments what you think fans' goal of the season should be. And now the stat deep dive. I'm doing the stats bit with Facecam this time just to make it a bit just not looking at spreadsheets the entire time. You can see there the Stoke City kit in question and also the away kit. So starting with Butland, we've actually put him in a list with some of the other notable keepers that we've used in this channel so far. So interestingly, Butland actually doesn't come away with the highest average rating. That's still Oyer, and even Valdez is ahead of him. Butland does become the most played goalkeeper though, so per game stats do become very important here. So of course the first thing I do notice is that Butland has only conceded 9 goals despite playing the most amount of games. That is the same amount as Oyer, who played 34 games less. And you can see the goals conceded per game here. Oyer, 9 games, 9 goals. Everyone is roughly at that around 1 goal per game area, but then Butland 0.21 goals per game, so that's a goal conceded every like 5 games. Butland actually has the worst win rate here, 34.8%, considerably worse than quite of the others, and that's despite having the joint most wins, like 15, and the second least losses. It's the draws that really change that stat. But let's get into the really impressive stuff. So of course he has the most clean sheets with 35, that's crazy. Butland has the highest passes per game as well, and actually the highest pass accuracy. But here's the big one, right? Because Butland could have all of these stats and actually be a terrible goalkeeper because he didn't have to make one save. The defense in front of him could be the best ever defense and never allowed a shot on goal. And he could still be looking like he's the best goalkeeper in this bunch. But as you can see, Butland, as well as having all these clean sheet records, has the most saves per game. He was the most active of all these keepers and still managed to keep more clean sheets than them all. 3.79 saves per game compared to the next best 3.56. 94.7% of the shots that faced him he saved. All of these stats right here, he is by far the best, by far. And look at that, 163 saves compared to like Valdez, 98-32. And remember, these are per game stats, so these are really in Butland's favour. It's Crouch who came away with the highest average rating with 17 goals. Only 3 of those were penalties. 8 man of the matches as well, that's pretty impressive. But interestingly, look at Carrick there, second placed. Only 21 games, but he managed to get a 7.49 average, 3 goals, 1 assist. Crouch there with 45 games. So Carrick actually had the second highest pass accuracy of any player with more than 10 appearances. Stephen Ireland with the highest one. Now that pass accuracy is actually higher than both Xavi, Iniesta and Scholes from the Barcelona save. And he came away with an average of 13.05 passes per game, the highest out of anyone, which is also higher than all of those players I mentioned before. Compared to the other midfielders, Carrick actually had the highest win percentage as well. This I find interesting. So obviously Crouch had the most passes completed, but Carrick, who only played like 21 games, half of what Crouch was doing, it's 3rd place. Third place. So you can definitely say Carrick had the impact that was intended. Looking at our forwards, obviously Crouch was the best, 17 goals compared to Austin's 4, Wickham's 1. But his shooting accuracy was only 63.3%, which is one of the lowest. Charlie Austin actually had a 90% shot accuracy, 40% shot conversion rate compared to Peter Crouch's 28.33% as well. And about the same goals per game, 0.33 compared to 0.38. So I feel like that bodes well for next season. We had quite a few players on 3 assists, no one really doing much better than anyone else creatively. But Townsend would probably work out the best because he played the least out of all of these players, so more assists per game. Our best tackler was Phil Bardsley with a 90% tackle success rate, making 1 successful tackle per game. Now you can see Jones was actually quite poor down here, 58.33%. He made up for it with a pretty high interceptions per game. Only Munez and Martins Indy higher than him. And he actually had the highest amount of blocks per game as well. And look at that, 90% of the games that he played in were clean sheets. There's only second to Joel Taylor, who I think, he played 1 game. But even despite that, Jones has the least amount of goals conceded per game as well. And I could probably find out, 3 goals conceded whilst he was on the pitch and he played 20 games. So then for player of the season, I think I've got 3 nominees. I think obviously Crouch comes in as a nominee. I'm going to nominate Butland as well, even though he's quite low on this. Obviously, he had a big impact. And then I'm also going to nominate Carrick because his stats have just been crazy. He really helped us in the second half of the season. Let me know who you think should win this. Who do you think has been your player of the season? It doesn't have to be my nominees if you think someone else should get it. Maybe Shawcross or one of the other defenders, because they also have the same clean sheets record as Butland. For me, I'm thinking like Crouch has the most amount of goals, he has the most amount of assists, most amount of man of the matches. highest average rating. But honestly, I think the manager's player of the year is going to be Bolland. I think it's got to be. He broke the record with his stats, broke the clean sheets record, the amount of goals conceded record that Chelsea had, and it's the defensive stats that really got us high. The attacking stats really let us down this season, so you can make an argument that he was probably more important than Crouch was. But then again, Crouch scored almost all of our goals. Oh my god. I just wanted to count how many goals we've got, and we've got some 41 goals. That's funny. So that's 41.5% of all the goals were scored by Crouch. But yeah, I'm still picking Bolland. I mean, it's crazy what he did. It was insane. But yeah, comment below who you think should have been player of the season, and that will be the fans' player of the season. Let me know if I was right with my decision. And then here we are in our Stoke team of the season. So this is just like it is done in like Football Manager, where we get a team that is kind of representative of what the team did, and it'll update each season with the best all-time players for this team. The defense is the defense that we started with, which is interesting because in the end, most of these players weren't in our lineup, so hence why they've actually not got many appearances together, but they have higher ratings, so it makes sense. Perhaps a controversial pick is Whelan Adam in midfield, particularly Whelan, who only got 6.97, but he was amazing for me. I felt his presence when he played. He was great. And then we've gone with Townsend, Crouch and Shaqiri as the front three. Cameron as well isn't one of the higher rated ones, but I think he deserves to be on this bench because he was very impactful. So let me know what you think of that. Would your team of the season be different? Here you can see it in its formation. And now our first all-time 11 with an updated career mode. This is awesome. So of course Butland comes in as the new goalkeeper. I mean, just look at that. So many more clean sheets, average rating slightly higher, but it's the save percentage and the amount of goals conceded that really takes him there. Honestly, I think that's going to be really hard to beat. I imagine Butland's pretty much there to stay now at this point. We're still playing that back three because it won a Champions League, and I feel like the players fit this system a bit better. Shawcross comes in, and that means Goodson's dropped way out of the all-time 11. Fontas and Piqué as well dropping out. Carrick, now he gets ahead of Xavi. Xavi drops down to the bench. This one's a close one, but as mentioned, his stats are way better. Passing stats, his tackling stats. He actually has the same amount of goals and obviously a higher average rating, so and less games, so Carrick slots in there. Other than that, no one really makes the best 11, so the front three remains as Messi, David Villa and Donovan. But Crouch does make the bench, 17 goals, going higher than Altidore. Our wingers definitely didn't outperform Messi or Donovan this season, so let me know if you think these decisions are right, of course. Have I done alright? Who do you think should be in this? David Villa remains the way top goal scorer, but Crouch slots himself in at 4th, just more goals than Donovan, but less than Scholes. And then in terms of games, Crouch comes in there at 8th. David Villa still maintaining that top position. But yeah, that is all the stats. That is that. This has been an amazing first season. We set out to be like certain teams, and we did that. The play style did that. A 3rd place finish whilst breaking the defensive records is a really good start, and I think if we can push on, we can really make something out of this team. It's so amazing when you really get invested in a story of a career mode and you're trying to get something, and this one's been really good for that. And that brings us to the end of the episode. Really long video this one, so thank you so much if you stuck around. So let me know what you think in the comments. I will be doing a follow-up video to this if it does well, so make sure you like, share it and all that stuff, because these videos take time. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.